After spending some time with it, I thought it might be helpful to share what I have noticed so far, because this is not the kind of thing you buy on a whim. It is a large portable power station with solar charging, meant for people who want backup power at home, power for a recreational vehicle, or something to cover the basics during an outage without dealing with gasoline, fumes, and noise. I have been using it in a normal routine, moving it around the house and garage, running a mix of everyday appliances, and charging it from the wall and from solar panels when the weather cooperates. The first thing I noticed in person is that it is big, and it is heavy. It is over 100 pounds. I could lift it if I had to, but I would not want to carry it any real distance, and I would not count on one person comfortably loading this into a vehicle alone. The reason it works for me is simple. It has 4 wheels that actually feel sturdy and a retractable handle like a piece of luggage. So in real use, I am not picking it up. I am rolling it. I have dragged it across a garage floor, over a driveway seam, and around a few tight corners in the house, and it has been manageable. Not effortless, but doable without feeling like I am wrestling with it. Visually, it is pretty clean. It is mostly black, and it does not look like a gas generator. That matters more than I expected, because if you are going to store this in a hallway closet, a garage corner, or near your electrical panel, it is nice when it does not look like a construction site tool. The shell has held up fine for me so far. I have bumped it lightly against a door frame, rolled it over small debris in the garage, and it still looks normal. The handle does not feel flimsy, and the wheels have not developed any wobble. On the front, there is a screen that I ended up relying on more than I thought I would. It shows battery percentage, input power, and output power in real time. That sounds basic, but when you are actually using a power station like this, it is the difference between guessing and knowing. If I turn on a coffee maker and the output number jumps, I can immediately see it. If a cloud rolls in and solar input drops, I can see that too. The buttons and ports are laid out in a way that is easy to learn without staring at a manual for an hour. I have used the alternating current outlets, the direct current options, the universal serial bus ports, and the car-style charging port. Nothing felt confusing. Setup was straightforward for the basic use case. I rolled it where I wanted it, charged it from the wall, and started plugging things in. That part feels like using a large battery. Where things get more serious is if you want it to behave like home backup power instead of a big battery with extension cords. The unit I have includes a smart transfer switch, and that changes how it fits into daily life during an outage. Instead of running cords through the house, you can connect it to your home panel for selected circuits. In practice, that meant I could keep things like my refrigerator, lights in key rooms, and my internet equipment running without turning my house into a mess of cables. I tested the transfer behavior by cutting power at the breaker in a controlled way, and it was fast enough that the things I cared about stayed on. My internet equipment stayed connected, and the lights did not do anything dramatic. It is not a magical experience. It just does what you want backup power to do, which is keep the basics running without drama. In real use, output power is what decides whether a unit like this is actually helpful or just a fancy phone charger. This one can push a lot of power. The number that matters for me is that it handled heavy loads without throwing errors when I tried normal household stuff that tends to cause problems. I ran my refrigerator, then added a washing machine cycle, and I also tested a portable air conditioner. I pushed it further by making coffee while the air conditioner was on. I was watching the screen the whole time, expecting it to complain or cut out, and it did not. It just carried the load and kept going. That is the kind of behavior you want in an outage, because you are already dealing with enough. You do not want to babysit your power source every time a motor starts. Charging has been flexible, and I ended up using both wall charging and solar charging depending on what I was doing. From the wall, it is the option I would use if I know a storm is coming, because it is predictable and fast. I have been able to get it back to full in under 4 hours, which made it realistic to top off the same day if I forgot. Solar is more situational. On a bright day with good sun, I saw around 520 watts per panel, and that number moved around as clouds passed or the sun angle changed. With multiple panels connected, I was able to recharge from empty in roughly 6 to 7 hours in good conditions. That is not a promise for every day, because real weather is messy, but it gave me a sense of what is realistic when the sun is actually cooperating. The solar panels themselves have been easy to live with. They fold up, they are not awkward to carry, and they did not feel delicate when I was setting them down and repositioning them. The cables are clear, and connecting them to the back of the unit is not complicated. I am not a person who enjoys tinkering with solar setups, and I did not feel like I had to become an expert to make it work. I will say, you do have to think about where you place them. If a tree shadow drifts across them, you can watch the input power drop on the screen in real time. So you end up learning the light in your yard or driveway pretty quickly. One interesting thing I tried was charging an electric vehicle as an emergency option. I tested it with my Tesla, and it worked. The car reported about 7,300 watts during the session. I want to be clear about what that means in real life. This is not replacing a dedicated home vehicle charger if you drive a lot every day. But if you just need to add some range in a pinch, or you want a backup plan when the grid is down, it is a real capability, and it did what I expected without weird behavior. Noise is another thing that becomes obvious once you actually use it at home. This is much quieter than a gas generator. Jackery rates it at 30 decibels, and in my house it has been quiet enough that it does not become the main thing you notice in the room. I've had it running while I was working, and it did not distract me. That also changes where you feel comfortable using it. No fumes, no fuel smell, and no engine noise means I feel fine using it indoors as long as you are using it as intended and keeping it in a sensible spot with space around it. The mobile app is useful, but not perfect. I like being able to check battery status and power flow without walking over to the unit, especially if it is connected near the electrical panel or tucked into a corner. I connected through Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and most of the time it did what it was supposed to do. I did have moments where it disconnected and I had to reopen it or reconnect. It was not a disaster, but it is the kind of thing that reminds you not to rely on an app as your only control method. The good news is the screen and onboard controls are clear, so I never felt stuck. As far as limitations, the big one is still the physical reality. Because it is heavy, you need to be honest with yourself about where it will live, how you will move it, and whether you have stairs in the way. Rolling it is easy. Carrying it is not. It also takes up space, and if you live in a small apartment, you are going to feel that. Another practical point is that solar charging depends on your environment. If you have limited sun, lots of shade, or you cannot place panels safely, you might end up relying on wall charging most of the time. I also want to mention expandability because it matters for planning. You can add extra battery packs and build a larger system over time. I did not max it out personally, but I like that it is not a dead-end purchase. If your needs change, you have room to grow without replacing everything. For some people, that is the difference between covering a few hours and covering a few days. After using it in real situations, my overall take is that the Jackery Solar Generator 5000 Plus makes sense for someone who wants a quieter, cleaner backup option that can run serious household loads, and who values predictable behavior when the power goes out. It is not small, and it is not something you casually pick up and move around all day, but the wheels and handle make it realistic to own. The screen feedback, the transfer switch setup, and the ability to charge from the wall or from solar panels all add up to something that I can actually picture using long-term, not just testing once for a video. You can find detailed information about the Jackery Solar Generator 5000 Plus in the comments section. See you in the next video.